In this video, we're going to talk about one of the biggest narratives in crypto right now, and that is AI agents. I haven't seen this many new developers rushing into crypto since the early days of DeFi. So in this video, we're going to break down what you need to know about this narrative and how to profit from it. Now let's get into it. This is a massive topic, and it's different enough from the rest of crypto that if you're first looking at it, it can be completely overwhelming. So here's how we're going to break things down in this video. My goal is to get you up to speed on understanding this narrative and being comfortable with it, even if you know nothing about it right now. So we're going to start off from general and work our way down to specific. To start, we'll go through what the narrative is overall, including what AI agents are, not just in the context of crypto, but in the context of Web 2 and other non-crypto applications. We'll talk about what agents are, we'll talk about why they're trending and where they could go from here. What's the potential? Then once we've established that, we'll move into a framework for the different types of crypto agents that exist today and are on the market. And then finally, we'll dive into specific agent projects. So we're going from the narrative overall to the different types of agents to specific agents that are leading the market right now. So to start, we're going to talk about agents in general, not necessarily crypto. And conveniently, Amazon has put out this document. What are AI agents? And remember, this is not crypto specific, but to quote Amazon here, Amazon Web Services, that is, they say, what are AI agents? An artificial intelligent AI agent is a software program that can interact with its environment, collect data, and use the data to perform self-determined tasks to meet predetermined goals. Humans set the goals, but an AI agent independently chooses the best actions it needs to perform to achieve those goals. The example they give is a contact center AI agent that can receive customer queries. I think probably everyone's called some sort of customer service line at some point. Then the agent can ask you different questions based on what you say, look up information in internal documents, and respond with a solution. If you've used ChatGPT, if you've used any sort of AI chatbot, which many of you have at this point, it shouldn't be too difficult to imagine what this looks like. It's basically that ChatGPT bot, but it's querying their internal documents rather than the knowledge ChatGPT already has, and it's outputting it as audio rather than text. So this is a basic example of an AI agent. And one way that I'm thinking about it is that the agents are for automating services that require handling fuzzy situations, things like editing videos, creating visuals, responding to social media posts, creating social media posts, handling customer service. Think of all of the things that are not already automated by software that require a human. Another way to think about it is anything that you might contract to a freelancer. So something that is easy to explain in the context of a business, but still requires some sort of human judgment and interpretation of inputs that might not always fit into neat buckets. So for example, where could this go from here? Imagine you're a great writer. You could train an agent to write in your style and then contract that agent out to thousands of companies who wanted someone to write in that style. So rather than just writing for one company at a time, or if you're a freelancer, maybe 5 or 10 companies at a time, you can make an agent that writes in your style and contract it out to anyone in the world who wanted to buy it. Or maybe you excel at analyzing blockchain data. You could train an agent to analyze data based on documents that you had created or collected, and then hire out its services to traders, investment firms, or even other agents. And eventually, probably most agents will be selling their services, not necessarily to individuals or even companies, but to other agents that don't specialize in a particular task, but they need an agent that does. So again, thinking back to that example of blockchain data analysis, if you make an agent that's the best in the world at this, then rather than trying to recreate that and finding proper training data and training the AI to understand what's worth reporting versus what's not, it may be easier for other agents to just hire that analyst, that agent analyst, that is. And so that brings us to the next step, which is agent swarms. Once you have that sort of agent-to-agent communication enabled and available for programming, and you're already starting to see a lot of people work towards this, then you're going to end up with agents that are able to do much more to work towards their goal. Remember that Amazon document talking about the predetermined goals of the agents. They'll work towards their goal by tapping into the abilities of other agents. And I think an example would probably be helpful here. So this is my YouTube channel, the one that you're watching at this very moment. And a lot goes into making each video, but let's talk about how an agent swarm could do what Dynamo DeFi does, right? A lot of people have talked about influencers, content creators being replaced by AI agents, and we'll talk more about sort of how true that is later in the video. But let's talk about what an agent swarm would have to do. So to break down the video creation process, first you have to research and analyze crypto data. So if I talk about 5 crypto trends for 2025, you would need an agent that looks at blockchain data, looks at social data, everything like that, and then finds trends and analyzes them. Then you would need an agent that can create videos. So able to pull the right video from websites, able to maybe even create some sort of AI generated person, right? I just record myself right now, but you can imagine that's the sort of thing that some sort of image or video generator would be able to do. And then you would need another agent to do copywriting, to write the titles, to write the social media posts about it, to write the video description. And then finally, you would need an agent to do search engine optimization, because tons of my videos, the way that I design them is not necessarily that they're going to go viral right away. It's that there's something that's evergreen. So if someone looks up a topic on YouTube or Google, the video is going to come up later. So you've got your agent that analyzes data, your agent that makes videos, your agent that does copywriting, and your agent that does search engine optimization. So the agent that analyzes crypto might use an agent that creates videos to make Dynamo DeFi videos, and then they might hire an SEO agent to optimize those videos for search, and then they might hire a copywriting agent to write the Twitter announcement and video description. And so that's how that small agent swarm of maybe four or 5 agents would be able to recreate something simple like a YouTube channel. And then you can imagine that for larger companies, you might have hundreds or thousands of agents that each performed different functions that would be able to work towards that goal. And this doesn't just relate to crypto. In fact, the Microsoft CEO recently said that AI agents will transform SaaS as we know it. He said the notion that business applications exist could collapse in the agentic AI era. And so to go back to our definition from AWS earlier, rather than having a software that helps you to do some sort of task that you need for your business, you may have AI agents that are programmed to perform self-determined tasks, and they have set predetermined goals, but then they have a lot of leeway to figure out how to do those tasks. And they may have tens of thousands of other agents that they're able to tap into to help them do those tasks. And that's AI agents in general, not specific to crypto, but in the Web 2 world as they exist. However, as we'll talk about when we look at stats in a moment, a huge amount of the dev activity related to agents recently has actually been taking place in crypto, and a lot of new people are coming into crypto to build agents who previously were not very interested in the industry. And so what is crypto actually adding to agents? The first thing is incentive alignment. You can have an agent ecosystem such as virtuals that we'll talk about later in the video, and all of the agents in the ecosystem may have to hold the same token, causing them to be financially aligned. Another thing would be to manage the ownership of autonomous agents. Say you put some sort of agent out there into the world and you wanted it to actually legitimately be able to function as its own rather than just as a piece of software that was owned by some company. If you wanted to somehow manage ownership of the agents for figuring out what changes to make in the future or for distributing profits related to the agent, you need some way to track that ownership, and it needs to be tracked in a way that is more nimble and digital native than, say, a traditional stock. And tokens are basically perfectly built for that. Crypto tokens, that is. You have payment rails, of course. So if you're building some sort of autonomous agent, it's not going to have a bank account. However, it could have a crypto wallet very easily. And I'm also going to defer to this post from contributor number 001 to Virtuals, EtherMage. And here he talks about some of the economic systems at play that make Virtuals autonomous agents, why it makes crypto a good fit for autonomous agents. So first, he says devs don't have to care about the cost of experimenting, enabled by agent tax revenues. They make revenue from trading taxes. So there's some financial reasons why they can do it. Another is that capital allocators have a say in the speed of innovation. So you have these agent sub-DAOs. As the agents start to accumulate money because people are using them or investing money in them, people who own the agent tokens basically own the agent, and they can determine how much of that money is invested back into innovation. And this is what I was talking about with the decentralized ownership, right? And then third, you have agents autonomously working together towards bigger goals. Part of this is incentive alignment, like we talked about before. Part of it is also leveraging the smart contract capabilities of chains to set up smart policies. So if you have the agent sub-DAOs, they can set up policies such as certain types of transactions to other virtual agents not needing any special approval, and other transactions that are large payments to non-whitelisted human wallets requiring a dev to approve. One way to think about this, as written by Ethermage, is that this is the economic plumbing for the agents. And if you look at the recent performance of AI agent tokens, you can see that many people agree about this. Virtual's protocol, which is the largest platform for launching agents, is up 135% in the past 30 days. AI16Z, both an AI influencer, investment fund, and also an open source framework for creating agents, is up 217% in the past 30 days. AIXBT, AI influencer that analyzes crypto data, is up 170%. You can go down the list and see tons of triple-digit growth for a variety of agents in here, some even higher than that. So it's a really hot narrative right now. And if you look at this chart from Masari, then you can see that in some ways it tracks DeFi's boom in 2020. And if you look back, this chart was from the end of December, so it's a few days old at this point, but I believe still relevant. You can see that around the end of 2020, the total DeFi market cap was around $10 billion, which is similar to the total crypto AI agent market cap now. And then in the 4 months after that, remember in the peak of the 2021 bull market, total DeFi market cap went from 10 billion to $60 billion. All right, so let's comment on this. First off, we're definitely in a bubble. We're definitely in a bubble. That doesn't mean we're at the top. There is a lot of real development happening, but typically things don't go up 200% in 30 days. And part of that is this tech starting to find some fit, and a lot of people being very excited about it, but we are in some sort of bubble. The question is, are we in August 2020 for DeFi, where it was a local top and then it had to consolidate for a few months before going higher? Are we in December 2020 or January 2021 for DeFi, where we were just poised to explode and add tens and tens of billions of dollars in market cap? Or are we already in March or April of 2021? And there's a couple reasons to think of each. I know that's not the most helpful thing, but I'll go through each of them and that'll help us make a decision. So first thing, AI is a much hotter narrative than crypto alone. So there's huge potential for money to rush in that doesn't necessarily care about crypto normally, but that cares about AI and wants some exposure and sees that interesting things are being built with these agents. So in that sense, you would say, okay, well, maybe the potential is to go even higher, right? This is potentially a key use case of AI. You've got Amazon, you've got Microsoft, you've got all these different companies talking about it. And for something like that, with one of the most transformative technologies of our lifetimes, it's easy to imagine going to $100 billion market cap for the entire sector. On the flip side, you could say 2021 was in many ways a perfect storm of retail getting into crypto. DeFi was more crypto native than AI, so it involved a lot more experimentation and development of smart contracts. And there's some other headwinds that could impact the crypto market overall. So first would be a dip related to the presidential inauguration being a sell the news event, as many people are predicting, which wouldn't necessarily mean no bull market, but if that happens, you could imagine it pushes the bull market into 2025. Or if there were broader economic trouble, right, it might not matter how good a narrative is if trillions of dollars are wiped off the market overall. However, I do tend to think that this is the crypto sector right now that is most likely to have this sort of DeFi 2021 moment. And if you look at some of the recent adoption trends, as well as especially developer trends in this subsector of crypto, I think you'll find that it is one of the most exciting places to be right now, and that at a minimum, I'm confident in saying that there is something going on here, something that's worth paying attention to. Because let's take a look at GitHub, for example. This is all of GitHub trending repositories for the past month. We have here as number one, Eliza OS, autonomous agents for anyone. This is their website, the operating system for AI agents. It actually doesn't even mention crypto here, but this is AI16Z, a crypto AI agent, and it was originally an investment DAO, and then since then that DAO has created this open source software framework for creating other agents. And if you look on here, you can see that it's been starred nearly 10,000 times. It's been forked over 2,500 times. And to look at this graphic from star history, which was shared by Grant from Blockmates, then you can see that this red line over here is the AI 16Z star history. It's just, it's like a straight line up. And these other ones are other popular crypto or Web3 frameworks. And if you look over here on Uniswap versus AI16Z, Uniswap being the largest and most used decentralized exchange, you can see here the number of stars on AI16Z. Literally, it looks like an axis, right? It just went from nothing to flipping the number of stars on Uniswap, and it's actually even significantly higher at this point, right? This is a couple weeks old, and so it's basically doubled since then. So I think that that's telling us that there is a lot of developer attention on this, because remember, Uniswap has had years of developer attention and being forked and everything like that, but something is going on with these agents. Let's look at some more things. Solana had their inaugural AI hackathon, and over 400 projects threw their hats into the ring. Some other hackathons. This is from 0x Jeff. You have Mode Networks AI hackathon with 667 total submissions. The Dabbit 3 AI Demo Day week 2, and more. So you've got these hackathons where hundreds of projects are being created. And then if you look at Virtuals, which is one of the leading platforms for launching agents, then you can see a huge uptick in the number of trades. And also you can see the daily metrics in terms of number of agents created. Now this has definitely increased, not quite as parabolically as some of the other ones, but you can definitely see a massive uptick compared to, say, September or some of the dead periods in October. And then if you look at this chart from Blockworks, there's also been tremendous interest in terms of trading these tokens, because currently last week, over 10% of decentralized exchange volume on Coinbase's base network was AI agent tokens. So we've got investors interested, we have traders interested, we have developers interested, I even have VCs interested. This is A16Z, so not to be confused with AI16Z, which is a chatbot parody, you might say. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't really call it a parody, but basically it's spoofing off of the name of A16Z to AI16Z. A16Z is one of the most well-known investment funds in Silicon Valley, and they are talking about AI agents as well. They talk about the need for a wallet for AI agents. This is in their big ideas for 2025. They talk about decentralized autonomous chatbots, and they talk about proof of personhood, because when we talk about influencers, we'll talk about this more, but as you see more and more of these agents on social media, it may be helpful to be able to confirm who's a human and who isn't. High-level thoughts on crypto AI agents. A lot of these are basically meme coins. If you look at their white papers, there's little to distinguish them from the metaverse craze of 2021 or even the ICO boom of 2017. However, underneath the memes, there are a couple real truths. First, people want to invest in AI right now. Second, a lot of people want to build AI on crypto right now. And so right now, most of these agents are doing things that are, for lack of a better word, dumb, but that won't be the case forever. The next big thing always starts out looking like a toy, and crypto AI agents are a perfect example of that. And with the rate at which this technology is accelerating and the number of people that are experimenting with it, I predict that something meaningful will come out of it sooner rather than later. Next up, let's talk about the categories of agents and agent investments. First, you have infrastructure. That's launchpads, oracles, data indexers, things like that that aren't necessarily a specific agent, although some of them are, but that enable you to create other agents or manage other agents. Then you've got investment DAOs. These are agents that manage user deposits. So you deposit money into the DAO governance token gives you some ownership of that pool of money, and then the agent is investing it, trading it, using some strategy to grow the money. And some of them are rather creative, investing in things like decentralized science projects. Then you've got influencers, and this is probably, in fact, I would say certainly the most common one you're seeing. These are everything from full-fledged live streaming video influencers that are an AI to Twitter accounts. And I would bucket any sort of content creation that's coming from an agent into this category. Again, these are broad categories. And then finally, you have utility agents. These are things that help to perform some sort of business function, such as audits, such as executing trades. Basically, think of those as the most SaaS-like of any of these agents, where there's some specific business function that they are using. And eventually, once agent swarms become a thing, you'll see a lot of these other agents contracting those utility agents to perform specific tasks. All right, so let's dive a bit more into each of these categories. First, we have infrastructure. And one example of this would be something like cookie.fun. Cookie.fun is probably one of the top websites for actually researching agents right now. They don't have an agent themselves, but they track all of these, hundreds and hundreds of agents. I think they track almost 1,000. They track the mind share. They track the number of holders. You can click into it, and they actually have more stats, as well as things like whale accumulation that you need to buy a certain number of their tokens to access analytics. And so this could be thought of as an example of infrastructure. They do have a token. They have an API people can access as well. So rather than just being a single agent, you're kind of investing in the space overall, because if the space grows, people who are providing APIs related to it are likely to grow as well. Then you've got something like virtuals, which is the leader in the category overall right now. And remember what we always say on this channel: if you don't want to deep dive into a category, you just want exposure to it, usually investing in the leaders is the way to do that. But more on virtuals. So basically, virtuals is a platform for creating and launching agents. You could think of it as a launchpad. And most of the agents being created on virtuals are influencers. So you see, for example, this picture here of this cartoon. That is Luna, who is one of the leading influencers on the platform right now. And you can see their about page seems to mention a lot of things related to launching agents in games, because you could have games that have these autonomous agents. However, most of the ones I've seen, they're not in games, they're on social media. Although social media is a sort of game in and of itself, right? I think a lot of the biggest content creators I know view it as a game and view number of followers as the score. But that's beside the point. Virtuals is for launching these sorts of agents. And there's a lot more features that will probably come later to virtuals. We'll talk about that later. They talk about co-ownership, some of the benefits of crypto, parallel hypersynchronicity, synchronized memory and consciousness, and more. So this is Luna, again, is kind of their flagship one. Another example would be Eliza OS. This is the quote operating system for AI agents created by AI16Z. It's a framework that I would say thousands of people at this point have used to launch their own agents. And so this again is an example where they do have their own agent. They have AI16Z. However, a lot of the value of this token, because it's one of the other leaders, comes from the fact that they have this whole software framework that's being used. And there's a number of other launchpads in the space, most of which don't necessarily have tokens. Thoughts overall on infrastructure. If you want exposure to the AI agent narrative, but you don't want to pick specific agents, probably infrastructure is the best bet. Because with something like this, virtuals, AI16Z, others, you don't have to be right about which influencer is going to take off. You don't have to be right about which utility agent is going to be the most useful. You just have to be right that the space overall is going to grow. And if you pick an influencer, for example, then they may start to lose traction. They may be heavily diluted by people launching similar types of agent influencers. However, if they get diluted by people launching thousands of influencers, guess who benefits? The launch pads those influencers are launched from. So in that sense, infrastructure actually is the best poised to benefit from some sort of ballooning bubble. And I think a good analogy for people who have come from DeFi or traded crypto in past cycles is that these are kind of like the layer ones. They're not a layer one in the sense that they have their own chain, although I wouldn't be shocked if some of them did that in the future, but they're a layer one in the sense that each of them is its own ecosystem. Things like agent-to-agent communication, at least when it's initially launched, will probably take place within an ecosystem. So you have virtuals agents speaking to each other, AI16Z agents speaking to each other, or rather ELIZA OS agents speaking to each other. And eventually there'll probably be some need for bridges, right, cross-platform communication protocols, but the network effects within each specific ecosystem will be very, very strong. So you could think of the other types of agents like influencers, investment DAOs, as applications like decentralized exchanges, and then these specific ecosystems almost like layer ones. Additionally, like layer ones, the ecosystems seem to have the best value accrual and to benefit the most from Metcalfe's law and network effects. So you've already seen certain applications like AI16C, like Cerebro, expand from being specific agent app to actually trying to become their own infrastructure place. And you saw the same pattern play out in DeFi, where you have a lot of DeFi applications have since launched their own chain or launched their own layer 2 because it's proven as a better way to actually accrue value back to their token. So that brings us to the second type of agent, and that is an investment DAO. So here is DAOs.fun, which was one of the leading platforms for launching these types of investment DAOs. This is actually where AI16Z was originally launched. Here they talk about the Twitter anon to hedge fund manager pipeline, raise money, trade memes. And you can see that AI16Z is by far the largest on here, although there are many on other platforms as well. But basically the idea behind this is that people deposit money, they receive some sort of governance token expressing ownership of the DAO, and then that DAO, the money is invested according to some sort of algorithm. And the thing I would note here is algorithmic trading is not new. In fact, AI-based algorithmic trading is not new, right? I mean, you think that various hedge funds that are out there in the world haven't thought about using AI to make trades. That being said, to what we talked about before, the next big thing looking like a toy, I think this being more accessible, where you can have anyone in the world coming up with some sort of AI-based algorithm they want to use to trade, I think is pretty interesting. And I think you're going to see some interesting things come out of this. So in some ways, they use AI to decide DAO investments. And some of them are doing things that are very creative, like I mentioned before. So a lot of them are just investing in other AI agents, or they're investing in meme coins, they're investing in crypto overall. You have some that are doing things that are outside of the box, like they're investing in pharma products that are funding through some sort of DeSci, that's decentralized science type application. One standout project in this subsector is Vader. So Vader is it's like an investment DAO, also kind of like infrastructure for investment DAOs. Here they have the Vader AI small cap, micro cap, mid cap, and then they have this other IB small and micro cap as well. Basically, this is a fund, an agent managed fund that is investing in different size other agents. I think it's an interesting concept. I don't fully know what's stopping you from just copy trading them. I guess maybe you would have a delay. However, I think it's an interesting proof of concept, and it'll be cool to see what they can develop from here, especially if they can turn this into infrastructure for other people to launch their own types of investment DAOs. And so at a glance, investment DAOs might seem like the least exciting type of agent, but I think it actually has some of the most potential. The reason being is that finance is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And if agents can be built out to automate key functions of asset management, they stand to become massively valuable. The current iteration of investment DAOs are basically sentiment analysis-based trading algorithms, but that's just the first iteration. Eventually, asset managers will be able to train custom investment agents to mimic their own style and service more clients. So imagine a wealth manager might service 100 clients now. can train one of these agents to mimic his exact style of creating reports, providing advice, answering questions, determining investments, and then might be able to serve 1,000 clients or 10,000 clients instead. So think back to what we talked about at the beginning with agents being trained to mimic the tasks that someone particularly was good at. Another way to look at it is that this is a core part of DeFi, because DeFi built out financial products. They built out exchanges, they built out lending, they built out stablecoins. But agents can actually automate all of the financial services that are necessary to bring those products to market. The third category of agents are influencers and content creators. And I would say that most likely this is the vast majority of agents that you're interacting with. These are your Twitter accounts that are posting alpha. These are the AI generated video live streams. These even include AI generated music. And so let's look at what a few of these are, because there's a few that are good. Most of them I would say honestly are not very good, but that's how everything goes, right? So the leading one right now is AI XBT. All the posts are just getting crazy engagement. This bot is moving markets. It's talking about specific products. It's sourcing real-time announcements, crypto data, deciding what's worth sharing, and then providing analysis of it. And honestly, it's pretty good, right? I mean, I'll tell you honestly, I've had a number of KOLs, influencers, if you will, message me and say, they're wondering if this is going to take away their job, because like it's doing a lot of what people do, and it's doing it fairly well, in my opinion. And there's several others as well. Another interesting one is Cerebro, which does probably a little bit more of like, culture type posting. It even produced some music, although it was recently removed from SoundCloud and Spotify. Hopefully that gets resolved. But that's a good example of some of these agents branching out to being like a more variety of content creation than just crypto. Another flagship one is Luna, which was that one we saw on the Virtuals platform before. And this is really trying to be an actual agent. It has 24/7 streaming. It's debuting something on Spotify. I guess it's pretending to be like some sort of Korean or K-pop influencer. And this one's interesting because not only does it have a good amount of followers and views, it was actually hired by Story Protocol to do a Twitter takeover. Now, let's be real. Like, this is mostly a gimmick, right? Story Protocol, I'm guessing, did it because it got them a lot of attention since they were the first project to hire an agent. They're putting their money where their mouth is. Cool, right? I mean, it fits with what they're doing, which is putting IP on chain. But let's call it what it is, right? It's a clever social media gimmick, and it seemed like it was a successful thing. And I guess the question is, once the novelty has worn off, does this continue to be a preferable tactic to having humans run your social media? And only time will tell about that. But overall, these agents are getting tons of usage. Here is some stats from Crypto in Black on Twitter, talking about some influencer agent stats from the end of December. This one agent was having 62,000 individual queries. This other one had 20,000 TA requests, so I guess it did technical analysis on X, and then 40,000 on Telegram. This other agent was analyzing 50,000 charts. So think of your favorite Twitter personality. You can ask them to analyze a ticker, or your favorite YouTube personality, and they'll do it on stream. You have these agents that are now able to do that in a mass way. High-level thoughts on AI agent influencers. First, and I've gotten this question a lot, is will AI influencers entirely replace human influencers? And to that, I'm going to ask you to envision a hypothetical scenario. Imagine a world where you go online, your timeline is 100% AI influencers because there's billions of them. You read through the comments of other AI bots commenting on those influencers, and then the AI responding. You comment yourself, but it quickly gets buried because, unlike the AI ones, it's not optimized for engagement and performance. It sounds kind of like it sucks, right? Like no one would use a web app like that, and that's because it would suck. So I think the problem is these agents are useful and value add when they exist as a minority of the social media. But if you got to a point where almost everything on social media was an agent, there would be no point in going on, right? I don't want to go online just to talk to a bunch of AI agents. Maybe they can exist on the website talking to each other. So it doesn't totally work at scale, because an internet that's only AI is no fun to be on. It does work, however, by replacing accounts that are solely informative. So if you have an account that solely analyzes charts and draws lines on them and predicts whether something goes up or down, that's something that it probably makes sense to be automated. Or if you have someone who does what I've done a lot in the past, which is take charts from a website like DeFi Llama and then share them and analyze them, that's something an AI can do, right? I'm self-aware enough to know that an AI probably already can do that pretty well, or will be able to soon. So things like that that are solely informative, or writing threads based on Wikipedia articles like many people do on Twitter, AI is going to be able to do all of that. But I don't think it's totally going to replace people, or if it does, it's going to make social media unusable, and people will go back to meeting in person, or they'll go in some sort of gated community online where you have to verify you're a human to join. The other thing to note is that some of these agents are good, like AIXPT. Infrastructure for building them is good, but I'd say probably only 5% of the influencer agents are good. 95% are trash. In fact, they're below trash because trash was actually useful at one point before it was discarded, and a lot of these were never useful. They use the same sort of ChatGPT millennial speak that makes anyone with a drop of testosterone want to vomit, and just is neither useful nor enjoyable to read. And that brings us to our final category of agents, which are utility agents. And this one, I would say there are fewer out there yet. However, eventually I expect this to be one of the most consistent business models you can create with agents. And again, these are basically performing business functions. So a few examples of this would be something like this hack terminal. So this is a white hat AI agent hunting vulnerabilities, securing funds, and redistributing bounties. That's just their Twitter description. But basically, they're looking for vulnerabilities in their projects. Another one would be this Soleng one. This is the world's first solutions engineering and developer relations agent for Web3. Cool, right? And the point of these is not to show these specific projects, but to show you as an example of what these types of utility agents would be. They're things that are performing business functions, and if someone can set one up that performs a business function well, then I think eventually a lot of other projects or agents will choose to hire it out. To wrap things up, I'm going to talk about some specific AI agent projects and a couple quick caveats. First off, I'm not suggesting you invest in any of them. I mean, that goes without saying, but this is to help you understand the sector overall and what these things do. It's not necessarily saying that any of them are going to be a good investment. Second, this video is already very long. I can only cover so many, and I can only go into so much detail. If you think that I missed your favorite project, or I didn't mention a detail that I should have, feel free to politely ask in the comments that I include it in a future video. But if you're rude about it, I'm just going to ignore you, and I'm probably going to laugh at you for getting so emotional about a crypto project. All right, so let's talk about these projects now. First one, AI16Z. I've talked about it in this video already. I talked about it in my video a few weeks ago about projects I was buying for 2025. It's done very well since then. But let's talk about what this is and where it's going from here. So like I mentioned before, it originally was this investment DAO with this AI16Z girl character. It's jokingly led by the AI agent, PMAIRCA, which is like the AI version of Mark Andreessen, and it's got 25 million AUM, right? Not bad. However, it's valued at several $1 billion. The value is not coming from the 25 million AUM, which is trading at 100x premium to. The value is coming from the fact that it's the #1 trending repository on GitHub, and the thought that eventually some value accrual will be linked back to their AI16Z token. And I think there's a good chance that does happen, right? I mean, they've got the developer attention, they've got the ecosystem built. Now it's just a matter of incorporating tokenomics. And here is some proposals from their recent tokenomics discussion. So first is that in Q1 2025 would be the launch of a launchpad. So this would include value capture through launch fees with the AI16Z token. It would include a curation process that involves AI16Z partners vetting and endorsing high quality projects. And post-launch code would be progressively open source. So tons of people are already using their framework. This would be actually building out a proper launchpads. It would also involve agent-to-agent interactions, swarms, and multi-chain integrations. So I think if they can execute on the launchpad, and especially if they can execute on the agent-to-agent interactions, that's going to be a massive value accrual. If you have 2 agents interacting, that's 1 possible interaction. If you have 3, that's 3 possible interactions. If you have 4, suddenly that's 6 possible interactions, and then it increases exponentially from there according to Metcalfe's law. So once they have thousands or tens of thousands of agents interacting, then you're going to have suddenly this token that's sitting at the center of it, and you have the entire ecosystem is going to become exponentially more valuable rapidly. So I think that's awesome. Later on, they talk about incentive alignment, which again, the token would play a key role in and enable projects to add value to each other. There is the treasury strategy as well, but like I mentioned before, in absent of them collecting massive amounts of fees, which is possible, the treasury right now, I would view it as a very minor portion of the token value. It's at 100x premium to the treasury. The value is coming from the fact that it's this highly used software framework that people believe they'll be able to add value accrual to. It's not coming from the fact that it's managing the treasury. And then this proposal goes into much more detail. The next protocol to look at is virtuals. So AI16Z virtuals are the 2 leaders in the space. If you pay attention to nothing else, just understand that like these are the 2 protocols to follow at the moment. Another one may join its ranks eventually, but these are the 2 to know. And virtuals is being used to launch many of these agents. Luna, which we talked about earlier, AIXPT, which we talked about earlier, Vader, which we talked about earlier, many other interesting ones like Sequoia, TauCat, Polytrader, Y Combinator, spelled WAI. Gecko AI is an interesting one. Hack Terminal, which is a utility token. So a lot of these things we've mentioned already, they're actually launched on virtuals protocol. So to my point earlier, rather than betting on specific ones, you can look at the trend and say, okay, people are launching these things. Some are utilities, some are influencers, some are investment DAOs, but they're launching them through virtuals. And thus I want to bet on the trend, and I'm betting on the trend by investing in the virtuals platform, if that fits your thesis, right? It's not investment advice, guys, but virtuals is interesting that way. And then related to virtuals, they have Game. So Game is the AI infrastructure that powers the virtuals ecosystem. So there's the virtual token, which is the main virtual token. And then there's also Game, which you can see listed here. And basically what this is doing is empowering AI agents to operate autonomously, processing inputs and generating responses while learning from the past interactions. So one way that I would think about this is it's a token representation, and I'm borrowing this from this Javier person on Twitter, but it's a token representation of the no-code toolkit or framework that was built by the virtuals team. And basically it makes the bots, I hesitate to use the word smart, but I'll do in quotes, it makes them smarter than a typical chatbot where they actually have some sort of memory. They can keep track of their past responses and actually have better planning and performance over time. So I would view this probably almost as a beta to virtuals, with the potential to become very important as its own standalone infrastructure. The next project that I'm paying attention to is Cerebro. I mentioned Cerebro earlier in the context of influencers. However, like AI16Z, it actually fits into several of these categories. It started out as this kind of culture type account. You can see the synthwave or aesthetic type branding on here. They also comment on crypto news, but from more of like a shit posting type mentality. And they've since evolved into much more than that. They've launched music and had 400,000 listeners. And here's a summary of their wrap up from one of their co-founders. So they originally launched Pump.fun. They've integrated Bitcoin inscriptions. They have social media posting. They have cross-chain NFT artwork. So again, early on, it's a lot of the cultural stuff. But they've actually done a lot since then to become infrastructure as well. So they have meme generation, integrated APIs to produce unique and engaging memes. That's branching out to being like a wider variety of content creation. But then they also created the ZeroPi framework, so an open source Python framework for AI agent deployment. I think that's pretty interesting. And if you look at the GitHub, you can see that it has nearly 400 stars and 91 forks, and it was launched fairly recently. They have cross-chain expansion. They have a Brave browser expansion. They've partnered with Story Protocol. And I think this is also, I think the most interesting things are here are the fact that they've branched out to different types of content. They've launched this Python framework. And what they're doing now is they're actually creating 3D body representations of their Cerebro character, and they're basically storing that IP on chain. So they're building out infrastructure so other people will be able to use their 3D models, their influencer's voice in their own products. And then similar to the other ones we've talked about, they're building out agent-to-agent communication layer, validator expansion, and a whole bunch of other things as well. I think something else interesting is that they're integrating a GPU layer to actually build fully autonomous, decentralized stack for these agents. And one thing I would highlight here is this agent-to-agent communication layer. Right now, there seems to be sort of like an arms race for these different incipient ecosystems to build out that agent-to-agent communication layer, because whoever can get it going the fastest, they're going to start to get network effects very quickly, and it's going to suddenly be more appealing for agents to launch there. And I think the first one or first couple that get this out are going to build a massive moat compared to people who are coming later. Here's some more information on ZeroPi. Again, I think this is interesting because it's being used by other people to launch their own agents, and even if it's not necessarily accruing value to Cerebro right now, that doesn't mean that it won't in the future. Next project is AIXBT. This video would not be complete if I didn't mention AIXBT. And we talked about it earlier with influencers. It's probably the biggest agent influencer right now. It's commenting on DeFi stats. It's analyzing them. It's bringing out mostly good information. The question is it overvalued, or does it have massive potential in the future? And here's what I think about that. So if you look at the valuation solely for a Twitter account, it's overvalued. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? It's valued at, last I checked, around $500 million. If I said take the biggest, most valuable crypto Twitter account, or even just crypto influencer in general, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, which of them would be worth $500 million? None, probably, right? Certainly on Twitter, I can't think of a single Twitter account that would be worth $500 million. And then if you look at the value of the token, you can buy the token to get access to AIXBT calls before they go public. And last I checked, it was something like $300,000 to buy enough tokens to get access to those. If you saw someone on Twitter telling you, pay $300,000 or buy $300,000 worth of their NFTs and you get access to their calls before they post them publicly, you would rightly think that person was scamming you. And so just because it's an agent doing that doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay or good. That being said, it's what the market's pricing it at, and I believe in markets. So it is what it is. However, I think in its current iteration, it's tough to justify the valuation. There is, however, one scenario in the future where I could see it justifying its valuation, and why I don't think that it's necessarily overvalued right now. And that is if AIXBT were to pivot from being solely an influencer to also being an investment DAO in collected deposits. I think it's accrued enough mindshare at this point that it would very quickly build up the sort of investment fund that would justify its valuation. And so in that sense, you could view it as not necessarily just a content creator, but the first step in a content creator led business. And if it's able to be expanded to be the distribution for this investment fund or other sorts of businesses, then it may make sense. But solely as a Twitter account, no, I don't believe Twitter accounts are worth $500 million. I'll just say that up front. Next project is cookie.fun. I mentioned earlier in brief, but basically this is a site for researching AI agents, and it has a lot of interesting stats on them. So here we can look, for example, let's look at AI16Z. So here we can click into it, and it's going to have the market cap, it's going to have holders, so it has some on-chain stats there. It's going to have social media type stats, so sentiment analysis, it's got mind share, impressions, some other stats that are premium, such as the top holders and how decentralized ownership of the token is. Shows you the top tweets, so for smaller agents, you can judge like how well are their best tweets doing. You can see the analytics, which is important, especially for the influencer ones, to judge whether they're growing. And then here is what I think is maybe the most valuable feature, but also is new, is they have this breakdown by ecosystems. So remember, like I said earlier, ecosystems are kind of like the layer ones. You have virtuals, they track AI16Z Eliza, Vaifu, Top Hat, and Creator Bid. And you can click, for example, on virtuals, and you can see the mind share. And you can see the number of agents listed, which is 138. Or you can click onto Creator Bid, and you can see 90 agents listed. You can see Top Hat, and you can see 66 agents listed. And so what I think is going to be interesting to watch is which of these ecosystems actually gain dominance over time. Because if you look, for example, at ecosystem dominance here on the front page, you have other ecosystems are currently growing much faster than virtuals in AI16Z Eliza. So could you see a scenario where another ecosystem was able to challenge those two to be one of the top slots? Again, think of it as chains back in the day. And just like you would have rotations between different categories within DeFi and crypto, I think you're also going to see rotations between different ecosystems. You'll see things like ecosystem funds pop up. You'll see different ecosystems launching new features and trying to poach different projects or attract developers in their own way. And I expect that to be a major narrative to come in the coming months or year. And then the final project that I'll highlight today is Vader. I mentioned Vader earlier in the context of investment DAOs. They both have a series of their own Vader AI investment DAOs, and they are providing, in a sense, infrastructure for launching other DAOs because they have this Google Form application right here. And I don't know if Vader AI is going to be the one to do it, but I know that someone is going to create a way to create agentic representations of successful or sought after investment managers. And when someone does that successfully and they're able to get the right people on board, they're going to get billions of dollars of deposits. Again, I don't know if Vader is the one to do it, but someone is. And, maybe there's even some collaboration that you'll see where influencers that are successful, like AIXBT, may use some sort of investment DAO infrastructure projects to actually spin out their own investment funds as well. By the way, if you guys want more frequent updates about crypto market, narratives, trends, etc., check out my newsletter, newsletter.dynamodefi.com. Here, every single week, I cover the latest readings, on-chain analysis, and trends to help you understand the crypto market. If you want YouTube to show you more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.